Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back. So, because I'm sat here, I have to host. Is that right, Tom? Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast, brought to you in partnership with Ryan
Footjoy.
Correct. Mine are sort of just adding here. Footjoy premiers. Like, they were okay for
You
the
had
trip?
some My Joys for the tour, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were on the Addington
specially
ones.
made. Yeah, My Joys with shout out Phil at the ad. He got me some My Joys with the Addington logo on the side and some blue crocodile saddles.
And the Lynx Masters, they were making a big,
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
you
navy
know, when I
Addington
went
blue
to-
with the white fleur-de-lis. Just
We're
Wait till you see
sponsored.
the Cookie Jar Lynx Masters coming.
We're sponsored by Footjoy, and I asked him for the jar logo, and he said, absolutely not. We don't do custom logos.
What?
And you've got the ad.
Well, it's just it's a pocket thing, so you can
Yeah,
actually
but on the
take
My
that
Joy
off.
website, you just select from logos.
You 100%. I've seen.
I'm
loads
sure
of
you can,
custom
but I think
Lynx
he was just
Masters.
trying to tell me
I think
to
it's trying
do
to fob
one.
you off. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think this is when you'd already taken 30 Scotty Camerons out of there and
Yeah, I think I don't know.
half
That's
of
a
their
bit too much.
marketing merch. Right.
Oh, look at that. We
So,
changed the
gents, this
logo.
is part 2 of the podcast. For those that have listened to part 1, you'll know where this is going. And for those that you haven't, head back, listen to part 1, then listen to part 2, or listen to them in reverse.
Or watch,
Yeah.
because this is all recorded in the new studio. And the
Did
agenda's in front of me.
not get
Don't
an
worry,
agenda.
Don't you worry. I'm all
Break
right
that
with the
one.
agenda.
Sure he knows what's going on.
But when we left this, we'd left Old Barnwell, and we are now going down to play in the New Year foursomes with. We were very kindly invited by Will Smith and Colin Sheehan from the
Mhm.
Outpost Club
Thank you.
for a 3-day event there, which, having heard about it, is meant to be absolutely exceptional. And I'd wanted to see a Hoopie Match Club for a long time, and also Tree Farm, and then get back to Atlanta in one piece and back home safely to see our wives that we're looking forward to seeing. I think it's fair to say by this point.
Now, I think we've done a pretty good job of colouring in Peachtree. I think we've done an okay job at colouring in Barnwell. For those people that are unfamiliar with a Hoopie Match Club,
Yeah.
the premise, what it is, fill 'em in.
Do you want to go for it, Ryan?
I can start. I think.
Because I think what I've noticed since we've come back is that some people go, "How was a Hoopie?" because they know all about it, and then
Mhm.
there's lots of people who go, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah. Well, we're going to maybe butcher some of these facts, but as far as I know, Colin and Will had this idea to basically do this club that was all about match play, and had found this site, and the place got off the ground and is successful, has members, but the whole premise behind it is that it's a Gilhans golf course about, what do you say, like 2-3 hours south of Aiken
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
Georgia.
Georgie, hop back across there.
And it's on sand. So you've got 22 golf holes, was it?
I think so.
And so they've got effectively an 18-hole golf course and what they call the whiskey loop, which is like these extra holes plus like alternative playing angles for some of the other holes. So you get
Which is
quite a
very
different
clever.
experience, but quite cleverly done from relatively like few additional holes. And so it's a lunch-to-lunch experience is the main thing that they promote, where you're effectively everybody staying overnight, and you are encouraged to play match play, and the person there's no tee markers or anything. The person that wins the previous hole chooses the playing tee for the subsequent hole. It just works.
So the whole
great
thing's
fun.
geared up for match play.
Yeah.
And anyone who's listened to the Colin Sheehan pod we did about middle of last year, Colin's got a real soft spot for places like Rawson, Georgia,
British
and
culture.
the
golf
British
culture,
club culture. And I suppose, having heard about it, I didn't really think too much about the British take, just the fact that this was a really innovative club. The whole idea being that we're really comfortable. I told my mum what it was about, and she said, "Well, but surely if it's only match play, they can't get a handicap there." The members, I was like, "It's okay, mum. I think
they're okay.
I think, to be fair, they'll be okay." But this whole idea that you just solely double down on match play, it's not a stroke play golf course. You're not going to mark your own card, and this idea that all the tee boxes are, it's not interchangeable, but you can play holes from 150 back or 340 back.
I mean,
so
taking
many
it to
options.
its extreme.
Didn't know what to expect.
You can choose the way that a Hoopie is set up. If you wanted to choose to tee off from in front of the green, your opponents have just got to sort of
Yeah.
take it. If you wanted to make it a chip off for
Yeah.
18 holes,
Yeah, you wouldn't want the walk, but for sure, and the way the holes are designed, which there's the old adage that the best holes are half par holes, and with that in mind, even on the scorecard, they quite uniquely, I think, have got
Decimalised
it
par.
says 3.5
Yeah.
or 4.5 on the half par holes. So really leaning into that kind of, it's not about stroke play. This is all about match play.
Amazing.
I think some of that. I think it's 15. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but 15 on the main routing. I think it's 15, maybe 14. I think the reason it's got that is you can take it up to like 150, or you can play it back at like 360.
Yeah.
So it is actually, you can play this as a 3, or you can play this as a 4.
Yeah. So the whole idea is that par's irrelevant. It's quite, dare I say, fashionable today at the moment. Say par's irrelevant, match play, and all that. And I think, to be fair, we would all say that that's the sort of style of golf that we really enjoy. But it's doubled down on it, and it's to the point where, like you say, all the stationery, everything is just curated to a very, very high spec. That unbelievable little onion logo, you touched on it with the lunch to lunch. So the whole thing's configured with communal seating, long tables in dining room, a big sort of U-shaped bar that everyone sits around. They put snacks on, and because it's lunch to lunch, the way it works is essentially there's no sort of cash or anything changing hands, or no bar tab. All the food and drink is pretty much just sort of it's covered within that visit.
One fee, and you effectively within that have your 24 hours of unlimited golf, all food and drinks, and your overnight accommodation all included in just one fee, whether you're a member or a guest, as far as I know. And it just works phenomenally well.
It is just curated, isn't it?
Because when you're on site, you're not, like you said, there's no money changing hands. You're at the bar, you want a drink, they get you a drink. If they refill, you don't have to ask.
Or after 7 p.m, you just go and make your own drinks.
Well,
or 9 p.m. maybe.
Yeah, I think I don't know if that's like an official policy, but certainly the thing I love about it as well, and it's touching on this like overnight stay thing, is that whereas at another club you'd all be in your separate groups, all having food at different times, you get there and you're told dinner's at 7, and it doesn't matter whether you don't know anybody or you know everyone, you're all going to be in the bar at 6:30 having drinks, all going into the restaurant at 7 o'clock at the same time, sitting down at the same time, and just the atmosphere is just next level.
And our accommodation was actually inside the clubhouse as well, so it's just, so you are, it's not like you're not leaving the premises, you're not leaving the building.
The bunkers.
It's just the bunkers were brilliant. Down sort of underneath it kind of ran, I imagine, the length of the underneath of the clubhouse, and was it like 20 rooms down there
next to the gym?
Next to the gym, which
communal showering and everything like that. But it is actually a very modern take on, if you think about the sort of great ancient British clubs, they all tend to work on some form of a timetable, whether that's, we stop serving breakfast at 10:30, or lunch is served between 12 and 2, or the clubhouse shuts at this. They all sort of run with a familiar timetable, and what that does is it just puts it back in where, it's good. You know how the order of day runs. And it keeps people together.
Even the communal showers, it's like it sounds ridiculous, but it's like
it's a thing.
It's part of the experience. And I was told, and I don't know whether this actually went into the designs and stuff, but I was told, there's these communal showers because they basically want you in the communal spaces, so they don't want you hanging around like having a shower for 20 minutes. It's like staying in your room. So instead of, at least in the clubhouse rooms, there's a communal shower instead of a shower in your room, supposedly to again encourage more of that communal experience, because they want to get you back to the bar quicker.
We'll touch upon the golf course shortly. I'm certain this is going to be the first of many digressions on this part, I imagine. It was in the communal shower when I go in, towel, I'm about to have a shower, that I stumble upon almost the finest conversation about shower pressure in history. So a gentleman who was also on the same trip as us, I'll leave him nameless for anonymity's sake. And he was going, the shower's just good, are they? And then he said, thing is, the best showers I've had were at Fisher's Island. And I was like, that sounds, they would be good. We said, no, it's not just that. So what they did is they've gone 4-inch inlet pipes. They've got and he starts reading off, and I was like, okay. And he said, and then they took shower pressure from the irrigation on the golf course, or the watering system on the golf course, so they could bolster the shower pressure and make it. And I was like, this is just I stand with a towel on going, I really need a shower, but I quite like to continue this conversation.
They didn't feel like they were going to take your skin off, but I sort of felt like there was more water they were deceptively watery. There was so much water coming out of them. Like, they were drench heads, obviously, but they weren't coming out like searing like paste where they was going to take the skin off. But there was just a truly biblical amount of water coming out of the shower.
Yeah. No, it sounds ridiculous.
It was crazy.
Going on about the shower, but
They're really
I
good.
have never had a shower. That is the best shower experience I've ever had in my life, and it was just sensational.
Did you get any B-roll of it?
No, I didn't. I didn't film the showers.
I was told
Couldn't get the drone in there.
How into these guys, like bringing cameras into the showers might have been a bit weird, but how into it some of like the American golf culture is on shower pressure. Like it's like a big thing.
On it.
Like even in the bar, I remember speaking to someone and they were like, yeah. We were saying the showers are amazing, and I think he said, well, they're like a 7, and it was like. Okay,
they say Marion kicks out
tell
a
me
pretty
more.
silly pressure.
And he's going, and they mentioned Fisher's Island, and they said, yeah, but Fisher's Island's great, but pressure, like it is more of a piercing, painful experience, but in like a good way. And then, there's another one, I don't know if you remember.
Marion, they really
No, it begins with a D. I'd never heard of it.
Deepdale?
Deepdale, that
New
was
York.
it. And they said, Deepdale, those are the best. And then there was another guy who's like, yeah, Deepdale's good, but and then he goes even within the club, cubicle 2 and 4.
This is where I think it's a great segue, because I've never felt so out of my own depth. I would say the company we were keeping there, because it's an event where guys had travelled from all over the US to come and play in it. Zach and Gil won it, I think, didn't they? The first year, or Zach won it twice.
Zach won it twice, yeah.
Zach Blair. And it was just, you're in really good company, like really well travelled bunch. A lot of them were Outpost members, and golf IQ off the scale, like really high,
and so refreshing as well, considering how revered that event must be now to a lot of those people. How not serious the golf was taken. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was taken. It was
like people wanted to win, but it wasn't. It was just very refreshing. I thought it was a jovial atmosphere. It was about as much of the socializing and meeting people as it was about the golf course.
I wish Eric and Jim knew that on Monday morning when they kept holding 40-foot putts from across the green. It would have been a bit more sporting to
more jovial,
must have hold about 300-foot putts. So the event ran with basically 3 flights. So flights is a thing that I've never really understood.
7 flights.
See, this is what I don't understand.
A flight is for
a league.
Like
a
like
flight
a
is a league.
It's like some people in the UK will play. Some clubs will play their winter knockouts like this. I think when there's a lot of people, not on much daylight hours.
Okay.
And
I thought it was the match. That's what you thought, wasn't it?
You're basically it's match play, but it's a way to get more
like
groups
a round robin
through. Yeah, exactly. So you've let's say got 4 people per flight. And you might have 7 flights, so you only play the people in your flight.
So you play 3 matches.
So you play 3 matches, and then the one with the most points progresses through to like the last 8 or whatever it is. So they have, I think, 7 flights. 7 go through to the last 8, and there's a wild card, which effectively, if you got more points than anyone else but didn't win your flight, you'd still go through.
Yeah, well, they all did a chip off in this one, didn't they?
Yeah, so they when there's like a tie for the wild card or a tie for one of the flights,
which is close to how they run members and guests.
Yeah, so it's a
like
very common format, except most places, as far as I know, the format for the flight matches is bettable, whereas here we were doing foursomes. Yeah. And then what they would do, the very final, at most of these member guest ones, they send all 8 pairs down the 18th hole, and it's just last man standing. So if someone makes a birdie and everyone else makes par, they win. But they're playing foursomes. Even when they play better ball, I know we played foursomes, but even when they play better ball in the other clubs, they always play foursomes down the last. So it's alternate shot.
Well, it was very unique to us. I mean, we arrived. First impressions of Hoopie, I must say, for me personally, I was quite intimidated. Like, you turn up, interesting route in because it's obviously not signposted. There's a lot of sand. You know, we were lucky. We were in a Ryan's wagon. Quite difficult to to find, and you get there, and you know you're there then, and someone takes your car off, and you go up, and it's lunch immediately. And we walked in probably somewhat late, close to when we were supposed to arrive, and the place is already packed, and it's an event that many people have done many times.
Yeah.
So we coming in, new boys, don't really know anyone. Everyone's chatting. Everyone's on a long table. There's no space on that long table, so we've got to set up this new little table on our own. It's a bit like
3 of us plus one other guy.
I was like shaking. Sam was looking at me. He's like, "You're."
I was like, well, I think
like, "Just
the
calm down,
reason
Tom."
being is because I'd kind of in my head. It sounds ridiculous, but I suppose if I think about our events, there's guys that, like the Christmas event we had at Urban Golf, for example, there was guys that knew no one that had travelled from 50, 100 miles away to come down and go to that event. And you're thinking, God, you know, it is weird when you put yourself in that environment of not knowing people, where there's lots of familiarity amongst a certain group and stuff. But like literally before we'd even had our tortilla soup or whatever we had that was brilliant, it's like you're off to just a great start and everyone's super friendly. But there is something about walking into an environment where everyone knows each other and you don't know anyone. And
That's what's lovely about golf, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's common ground between
disarming.
strangers.
Sort of like,
And the Americans are so friendly.
Yeah.
You just sit, so we were sat down on our own, and then there were a couple of others came in after us, and straight away you're off and running. It's just everyone talks to everybody.
In the UK, I think, I don't know if it would be a bit more frosty. I always think of Peter Kay saying...
I think people are just, their default is just a bit more like...
He looked at me like I'd come into his house on Christmas morning and pissed his
But it wasn't like that. So the event ran then basically 3 foursomes matches played over the Sunday afternoon, Monday and Monday afternoon, with a final to be played on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Now the Tuesday morning, well, the weather was really biblical on Tuesday, and they knew this a long way coming off. So there was a lot of like questions about how the final was going to be played and all that kind of good stuff. But then on the Monday night, there was the big college finals.
Yeah.
And I just saw in the emails lots of talk about Bulldogs and stuff.
Go
Was
Dogs.
it Michigan against Washington?
Yeah.
And Georgia have won it the last 2 years in a row.
Correct.
And I guess Georgia got knocked out in the semis, so...
I had no
'Cause
understanding
there
of
was
how
some sort
big
of-
college sports were in America, though.
Oh yeah, I mean I didn't know,
massive.
but it's
There's
huge deal,
120,000 seater stadiums. It's like bigger than the pro in some cases.
And outside of like the sort of the main conurbations of like New York and LA, like college football in many parts of America is actually bigger than NFL.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's
whoa.
what you just said.
Yeah, thanks.
Sam's got this thing.
I then try and resell it as my own. But it's like,
Repackage it and recycle it.
but it's
as well.
bigger than. Like, it's just crazy. I can get my head around it.
I've got a friend who tells his other mates anecdotes in front of him at parties,
Yeah, it's
just to
brilliant.
drive him nuts.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm going to start doing that with you.
So
Georgia,
how
apparently
did
the
you
year
get on,
before,
how did you get on in your
your
matches?
I think we were undefeated. Maybe the last.
Because you
one
got
we
through, didn't you?
Well, I was through to the final. Yeah.
And you were playing with
Will Smith.
the organizer.
Yeah, the organizer, not Will Smith, but the Will
not the
Smith.
actor.
If you know,
Will
you
Smith.
know.
Will Smith, the actor.
Yeah. So the finals foursomes down the 18th. Everybody watching. It's great fun. I mean, it's if you can ever have an event where there's a whole bunch of kind of woke golf crowd, like-minded people standing around watching like a bunch of their, group coming down in an event there's some like friendly competition. It just doesn't get better than that, I don't think.
Yeah, it was like you say. It was the camaraderie was really good. Like you couldn't move for interesting people. It's everyone you spoke to has got a really interesting story. I mean, I wish our golf was the standard of yours. We won our
played
first
all right.
match.
We actually played okay, to be fair.
Yeah.
We didn't play great. I mean, I think our first match played against Alex Holderness and John Bourne, a.k.a. Holderness and Bourne. Very nice chaps from New York. Purveyors of great clothing. They that was a bit of a pillow fight, I'm going to say. And we snuck through. Tom Hold, this huge... There's this thing about like being a bit stoic, isn't there, on the golf course? I think if you're British. Tom's hold from off the green. We both got probably 25, 30 feet from just short of the 18th green. It's just on us by like a foot. Tom's knocked this. I'm behind him, and I've seen it from 6 or 7 feet out. I'm like, this thing's in the hole. Like, there's no way that's missing. And it drops. Tom puts it in. It's like, whoa. And Tom sort of, it's all quite quiet. Tom goes, oh. It's like, oh, nice putt, Tom. Colin Sheehan comes over and he goes, holy shit, this thing's live. He's like screaming. And we're trying to be as like reserved as possible. So we ended up sneaking that match. And then I think we played quite nice in the afternoon and both rounds the next day.
Yeah, I needed a couple of transfusions to get me back on track. There was a few.
You went a bit
dodgy,
missing for a few.
dodgy swings in there.
What is a transfusion?
It's a drink.
That's
It's a
what it
very,
Grape
very
juice?
strong drink.
Grape juice, vodka.
And root beer or something? Or
No, there's
ginger
all
ale?
the spirits in there, isn't there? There's like triple sec, gin.
It's very nice anyway.
Very
It's a golf
good.
drink
Very
in the
strong.
US.
Very popular.
That halfway house, again, another phenomenal halfway house. They had biltong hanging up. and it was
Homemade beef
homemade sort of
jerky.
crunchy
Did you have the nut
thing.
brittle?
Oh my word, the peanut brittle. Her mother makes it, and yeah, I'm going to be doing that. That is amazing. I don't.
We're
With
going to
this-
be doing that
is
at
it
the
the
Addington.
Addington?
Yeah, 100%.
Ridiculous.
I didn't say it.
So sometimes we had to limp through to the halfway house, and once I got a transfusion in me, it kind of all.
It was weird because at that point in the golf course, the ninth is like it's a real shorty of a par 4. Really, you've got to play it. It does play as a par 4. You don't really play it as a 3, but it's never much more than sort of 320, and most of the time it's like 250, 270. It seemed.
The green's drivable, so you're
Very
you're waiting
drivable.
on the tee a lot of the time. That was the
But
only spot on the course where
it
you wait on the
is
tee.
which is fine
Ridiculous,
though,
the
because
green.
then you can just chill out in the halfway house afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's
No, it works really well.
yeah.
But the green is absolutely mental. Now, what we should say about Hoopie is we played quick greens throughout this tour. I would say the greens out of Hoopie they felt. Now, there's a lot more undulations because it's a match play golf course. I think they've built the course to be more provocative and more on the edge, and disasters looming with every golf shot because it's the nature of match play golf.
Yeah.
But even so, the flat putts I had felt 2 foot quicker than the rest of the tour.
Yeah.
They felt like you. I think you said once you get past 12 or 13, the whole thing starts to lose meaning on stimp. But they felt like crazy.
It was-
greens.
Yeah,
We
you're
saw-
aiming outside the hole on short putts, aren't you? It's
Yeah, and we saw people. I don't know how it worked in your matches. We saw at least 2 different occasions people putt into bunkers off the green because they are just so quick, and they tuck the pins in some places that if you have a crack at it, it's
But that's what's so fun about match play golf. Is that and that's what they're trying to lean into, right? It's like
Yeah,
I
100%.
don't want to piss anyone off on a stroke play event because it's ruining his card or whatever. It actually gives you the opportunity to do some more provocative stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, you were getting a bit grassy on the previous pod, so let's do it again. It is my understanding, I'm by no means an expert. Bermuda greens at Hoopie.
Yeah.
So Bermuda, because of the thick sward of the grass, you can cut it to like very, very, very small. Like you just couldn't get away with it with a final leaf grass because it couldn't photosynthesize, couldn't get the light, couldn't grow. You just kill it. But with Bermuda, they can cut it to next to nothing, and because it's got a large blade, it won't die. So they can get it really, really short, so you can get it really, really quick. Is that sound about right?
Don't know. I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
I
gonna
haven't
pass it
heard
to
it's
Mike.
to do with the size of the grass. All I know is that there's basically these varieties, like with ryegrass here. We're getting dwarf, ultra fine ryegrass where they're breeding it to be a lot thinner. And similarly with Bermuda, the thing about Bermuda always used to be that it has grain. And if you've ever played in Spain or Portugal or the Caribbean, then you can even hear it. You putt into the grain, and you can hear it like Velcro, and it's similarly down grain. You can even get putts that seemingly are breaking uphill because the grain is actually pushing the ball in that direction, and these ultra dwarf Bermuda strains now are getting to the point where, especially when they just go in, because they get a bit broader as they get older, but they seemingly have almost no grain, and that is just getting the performance of these greens to just next level. And I think with Bermuda as well, the other thing is I think requires a lot less water than other
certainly when it's
grasses.
dormant.
So what's that?
Certainly when it's dormant. I mean,
Yeah, well, you'd have thought so for sure. And it's also got. I mean, people talk about fescue having like a woodier thatch. I think it's the lignin. It has organic matter, but it's actually a better kind of organic matter. It's like a woodiness, I suppose, that gives it its firmness. And Bermuda, I think, has like a similar thing. Like you can feel it when you try and repair a pitch mark, right? It literally is hard.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah,
actually hurts. Well, you're barely ever repairing a pitch mark.
yeah.
but when you do, it's actually difficult to repair. And I think the only times you ever really get that is probably on links courses out here in the summer. So yeah, you get, I think we mentioned it on the last pod, it seems to be more receptive on long shots and basically not receptive at all on short shots. So there is that difference, whereas I think our grasses are kind of more similar.
You can't spin them in, can you? Like, I think peach tree, bent grass, you can chip from the edge and you'll get a bit of check on second bounce.
Yeah,
you will get no check on these greens.
It doesn't seem like it either. Or
very little.
We're just not that good at golf, probably. But
yeah, probably. But you're not
still like even at our level game, like you just notice a massive difference in no spin.
But we left this on the 9th, and that green, if you take it, was so quick. I think we put it on the sort of front middle of the green,
just
off the tee. And you'd think, probably got 30 foot or so for eagle. And I think was it me this one? I pulled the putt.
No, because you put us on the green. I had the putt, but
it was a hair left, and it was like 60 feet left, and it was.
Oh, that was the
finished.
first day. Sorry.
Yeah, but it was because we played it a few times. So undulating and so quick.
Same green. The next day, you drove the green. We had an eagle putt. And because it had like a kicker in the middle, like a big ridge that rose and then ran to the left, and beyond that it all ran away, that I knew if I got it over this ridge in the green, it would be impossible to keep it on the green, short of going in the hole. So you're thinking, right, I now need to putt to the left, so it goes round this ridge, so we can hopefully two putt from wherever I leave Sam. I mean, it was...
You're strategically three putting, I found on a couple of them. That's an edge case, in fairness. But when you got on the green, it did feel like your battle's not done. This isn't a case of just lag it up. It's a lot of fun, actually. And I think in a foursomes dynamic, it adds another completely other dimension to it. To your point, I wouldn't want to play stroke play around there because it felt like it was crazy on the edge how quick those greens were. And
I think they set it up differently, though,
Yeah.
Like that was set up for match play, which it is probably every day. But I mean, just to touch on some general points about the golf course, like again, but native sort of sandy waste areas like to the sides instead of having grass, tree lined on almost every golf hole except the first three play. And I think there was a discussion when they were building it, I guess, as to whether or not to go out to this side of the course. But basically the whole golf course has kind of a bit of like a character which is different to the first three holes because you're playing around this lake, which is much more open. The holes are wider. And I think I heard two sort of remarks on that. One is that it doesn't really match the rest of the golf course. I personally, the other view is, I loved it. I thought it got you. It's like the gentle handshake. It got you out, open your shoulders, and then it kind of gets progressively a bit tighter as you go around, which I really like that flow. Especially like the third hole, like how wide that is, and then you get to four.
Four's a great hole.
It's one of these ones that you're talking about, Tom, where it's like you could take the tee way up or way back. And I think then from 4 on, you start to see what the course more becomes really on the rest of the holes, which is more tree lined. And weirdly, like I remember when I think I said to someone, like I've been to Africa this year for the first time for a wedding, weirdly, and I said to the caddy, it's like weirdly kind of looks like Africa, like the trees are seemingly like old trees that are really short, like they're not growing super tall, and I think it's something to do with the sand. It's like lack of fertility or something, and they never get very high. And he goes, yeah, funny you say that. Like the owner apparently had the same thought. Like he thought this looked like Africa.
You can see what.
And so he bought a flock of zebras.
which is where they're now behind the fence because no one realised how violent zebras were.
My wife's Canadian. I should say zebras. And so behind, I forget which hole it is, but you get to this hole and he's like, there's the fence.
Championship.
But
it's
also
a pen you can see it from like 17
on
championship
on the golf course, which is just nuts. So that I think that's something that just goes completely missed for most people that can't play that golf course.
So on the championship routing, you've got holes 2, 3, 4, and 5, which you'll only play on the championship routing. And then the whiskey routing has A, B, C, and D. And when you play the 10th, this sounds a bit protracted, but I'll get there eventually. 10th on championship, you just turn right and you play that as a par 5. The 11th, it was like a long hole, I guess. Or you play the whiskey routing, which goes left, and you play A, B, C, and D. But the real genius about how it's constructed is that for all the holes that you play on both routings, depending on the the hole it is that you're playing, whether you're playing championship or whiskey routing, the tee boxes a lot of the time are radically different as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's genius how what would that be if there's 22 holes but 8, so you've got 14 golf holes that are used every single time you play the golf course. Of those 14, a huge number of them tee off from radically different
It feels like a
places.
different golf course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet they've still made the greens work in completely different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that, you've got quite slopey contoured greens and it's quick and fast, and therefore there's always that strategic element to it. But it was really clever.
Yeah.
Like really, really clever. And I suppose, gun to your head, do you prefer championship? We played championship or whiskey routing and whiskey routing twice. So we played whiskey twice, championship once. I don't know if I quite like the quirkiness of some of those whiskey routing holes. They're a little bit like the green on A is nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's incredible. The little half
nuts.
pipe.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like a racetrack. Like
That apparently was before they bought the site. It was previously, I think, some other developer was trying to make it into a golf course, and it was going to be like a racetrack and golf
That's
course
right,
or
yeah.
something. And they apparently there was like this actual part of a racetrack that they built, and it's this banked corner.
It's
and
a speedway thing,
they
isn't
like
it?
kept that as part of this green, and it's just a nuts green.
Crazy. And then you play B up over the tree with your second. The whole thing is absolutely exceptional.
And the thing that struck me, I think, every time I went round was, as wild as I can hit it off the tee, it's tree lined. Every hole is tree lined, and a lot of them feel quite narrow, and you never lose a golf ball.
No,
You walk into the woods, and the work on the understory, like it's, I guess because it's sand again, nothing's really growing like aggressively, and there's not much sunlight because it's under the tree canopy. So I guess they do a lot of work on like clearing the leaves and stuff, but you just never, you might be way off the beaten track in the woods, but you never lose a golf ball, which was just the best form of golf, I think.
I don't think we lost one, did we, in 3 rounds?
No, we
Which-
didn't.
Which,
I mean,
considering
it's-
some of the places you were hitting, it was
Well, no,
quite
to be fair, I was
spectacular.
just duffing it, so it wasn't going wildly offline. It just wasn't going very far.
To me, it's the mark of a great golf course. It's like what sets the good and great golf courses apart is their rough/native management.
Do you think?
Yeah, 100%.
Why?
Because it's
Just another level of attention to detail.
yeah, and it's actually really expensive. Like if you go and look at some of these older links courses that now with fertilizer and irrigation, they've got effectively what they were probably like the old course, let's say, used to just be wall to wall, semi rough, managed by animals, never losing a golf ball. And now I'm not necessarily saying this is the case at the old course, but there's a lot of links courses I think you go and play, and if you miss the fairway, you basically are losing your golf ball.
Yeah.
And when the ball goes as far as it goes now, where a lot of the time you don't see it down as easily, especially on like flatter land, it just becomes pointless. Like if every time you miss the fairway, you're losing a ball. It's like Bryson at Royal St George's. They supposedly without the spotters, he's shooting like 9 over, but shot 67. And it's. I think being able to find your ball, having long rough that you can see the base of, is the difference between a good and a great golf course. Assuming it ticks the other boxes as well.
Yeah.
But it is such an oversight a lot of the time, I think, to let the heather or the fescue or whatever it is to just basically be what it is, and invariably it's just way, way too thick. I think in the past there were probably, like I said, a lot less fertilizer, a lot less water, probably had more fires, probably had more animals grazing, and now this stuff just gets thicker and thicker. And if it's not managed, it just makes for a boring golf, I think. So that was what is so refreshing about the likes of a Hoopie, and I guess Tree Farm, although they're still kind of building it out in terms of the rough areas. But a Hoopie's been open like 5-6 years now. So the native management there, that really stuck out to me. Really impressive.
Championship or whiskey routing? Gun to
Do
your
you
head.
know, it's really difficult because we only played the championship once. We played the whiskey twice.
4 and 5
Really
were
liked the
proper strong
whiskey.
championship, weren't they?
4 and 5 on the championship were 5's a crackerjack of a par 3.
Yeah.
Great par 3. That fifth that you miss out, which is a shame.
It's like picking your favourite kids.
Well,
Four and five would be a shame to miss.
it's
those.
like choosing your favourite favourite
The
bit of
thing,
stash
you don't
and
have
tour,
to
you know?
choose though,
Sort of
because
what I
you
just said with favourite kids, really. Isn't it?
Well, no, because you say the exact same thing as someone said. I've just repackaged it, so it's a difference.
You don't have to choose, because I think this whole going on about it, the lunch to lunch thing, I think every time you would play
You
the
like
championship in the afternoon and the whiskey in the morning, I'm pretty sure that's like the
That's the
standard way
thing.
they do it. So every time you go there, it's not like you're going to say, I mean, I'm sure they'd let you, but it's not like you're going to go championship and not play the whiskey, or the other way around. You're going to probably play both. On any Hoopie experience, you're going to be playing both.
But I actually think I don't think it matters. You might be able to correct me here, but because of the way that it pans out, if someone teed off 10 minutes behind you, you'd almost stay. Even if one played the championship and one played the whiskey, it wouldn't affect each other.
Yeah.
Unless you were like, you
Unless
really
the
hit a
course
bad
was
time and all that.
absolutely packed, which it never would be. But
Yeah.
because you're basically the whiskey routing. You both championship and whiskey. You start on 1, and then championship 1 you go off back left, and whiskey you go
Right,
front
yeah.
right.
Front right. And you
And
play
so-
6 on the championship.
Yeah.
Shorter,
So I
don't
guess
you?
when you get to 6, you potentially might have someone else getting there. At
Yeah,
the
I
same
mean
time.
it's when you come back on from the whiskey, isn't it? Which is probably like when it's like the 12 or 13 or whatever it is. But I mean, they're both just brilliant. I mean, I thought the shaping was bold and interesting. Certainly on the whiskey, I think the whiskey's got some crazy holes, like you say, whiskey A, which has got that half pipe green with a kick around the back.
Yeah.
I mean,
Whiskey B got the trees in front of the green.
yeah, it's smack bang in front of the
Yeah.
green. It's like, who cares? It's there.
Yeah.
And it's clever because if you lay back enough, you can go over the tree. And if you decide you want to sort of pump it down there, you're going to be a bit blocked out. So again, you wouldn't put it in stroke play, but it's a you can do whatever you want when it's match play.
Whiskey D is that like the kind of 3.5?
No.
You can go.
A, B. You play back.
Whiskey C was a par 3.
Yeah, you play
Which
2
is the one with
threes
a
back to back.
huge like Biarritz swale in the front of the green?
Oh, it's like 14 or
Yeah.
on champ.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine, I'm getting mixed up.
13. Then 14's the one we kept playing it as a
It's par
shorty.
3, yeah.
No. This is where it gets confusing with the whole
It's only
numbers.
because we played
This
it.
is like talking about Hoylake in the Open. It's actually impossible.
No, that's one after that.
16.
It's because work it backwards. You got the 18th,
It's
17th,
11 champ.
17's a par 4, 16's the par 3, 15's that one with a cracking little dead tree in the fairway.
Mm.
You can choose to carry.
Yeah.
14's the one we keep playing as a 3, but should have been played as a 4.
Oh, you mean
13
the
is
big bit? Okay, sorry. He's thinking the
13
one out further past.
With the big beer, it's in
Not
middle.
the one where we kept. It's the one after where we always played it from the extreme left
Yes,
to the
there is the one
fairway.
after that, yeah.
Yeah.
There was
the
like
the big hole.
Yeah.
Which is wide open out. It's like edge of the property stuff. And then you come back, and that's the par 3.
You can
with
play
the
as a
swale
par
in front.
3, but you can play it as a 270 yard par 3. And it's got, we always, or certainly in the second day, they put the pin in the half pipe
Yeah.
that runs left to right.
Cracking golf hole.
And as long as you're in that half pipe, it was like 2 half pipes back to back, really, wasn't it? Like a smaller
Well, the
one,
back of the green is
a smaller one back
a
there.
bit more subtle. And
Yeah,
the
and
front
then there's a
is
big one.
Big,
You
big
just send it
swale.
in the half pipe and it just keeps
But
going
yeah,
up
because
and
of the
back until
pace,
it
yeah,
gets
you can basically go up and down
all the way. And if you
both
Yeah,
fudge
sides
it
of
and
right,
the
it gently runs right to left as you look at
Yeah.
it from the tee.
Yeah.
So if once you hit it in the half pipe and it's doing the back and forward, it's gradually working its
Yeah.
way down the.
we
to
went
right
on
to
the
left.
one time because we got into a zone with me and Tom where we got quite a good strategy going. I thought like Tom was hitting the irons really good, wasn't hitting the driver as well. So he's like, well, when I'm on the tee box, because you get to call the tee box if you've won the last one, as we've already said. Tom would go forward. I was hitting the driver really well, so I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going back and just make things longer. So when we played that hole, I think I went back to the absolute tippy tips. Caddies were like looking, thinking, what an idiot.
knobhead.
Yeah. So I stepped up, hit full blown driver at this thing from like 280. And to be fair,
He's going
it
to
was-
say that out the back. I was out the back.
No. Well, it might have been 260. I don't know. But it doesn't really matter the yardage, but I absolutely pulled this thing off. Because when I saw the caddies 50 yards further in front and this guy going, okay, we'll go all the way back if you want, I thought you've really set yourself up for a fail here. Like you look like an absolute
That's
knob.
like when you
top
wait
it.
on a par 5 for the green to clear and then just top it. That's usually my.
But it
my
pitched, didn't it?
technique.
Absolutely
Pitched.
right by and then just ran through, to be fair.
It just ran through a bit.
But that whole dynamic of thinking about how you want to play it, and I think it just adds a completely other dimension. Any other parting thoughts on a Hoopie before we.
It-
You've talked about lunch to lunch. I feel like you want to talk about it again.
No, let's not do that again.
No, it's not that. It's just that, we were there for an event, and it feels like that's what the place is designed for.
Yeah.
To have 60 people, whatever it was, on site, all together for the same event. It feels like that's when it really comes into its own. I'm sure it's amazing if you're there just with like your own group of 4 or whatever, but I feel like we're very fortunate to have been able to experience it at.
You see it.
And I think
best.
Sam has really got to cling on to the memories, because Sam certainly won't be invited back after nearly burning down the clubhouse.
That
What
fire
happened?
pit. Well, the fire pit was
yeah.
going, and like there was a few guys who. There's something about fire and men, isn't there?
Well, we were talking about this where
We've all got
I
some
said to
innate
you-
pyrotechnic sort of in
Yeah,
us. You know?
but bringing it back to
Pyromaniac. You're not a pyrotechnic, you're a pyromaniac.
That's exploding things, isn't it? Pyromaniac.
But we're sat outside. There's a fire pit outside. This is the other thing in the States. They
Pyrotechnic.
love fire pits. And we were out there, and they're letting you build your own fire. And Sam went and found the pile of wood. So they're quite clever, because they give you a pile of wood to build your fire with, but the pile that they give you is actually quite small, so you can't make the fire too ridiculous. And Sam, I think, saw out of the corner of his eye where they were restocking from, so went to get more wood than really we were sort of being rationed at the time. And the fire got to some obscene level, and I think the lady actually came out and said, "Okay,
No more.
I've been cut off from the bar before. I've never been cut off from the wood pile."
Well, thing is, we've talked about the temperatures.
It's like the waste management, but with fire.
The temperature swing in these states is enormous. So at night where it's like -2, -3, and it can be up to 20 degrees in the day. We were around that fire in the dead of night.
Yeah, it must
stripping
have been like
down
1 or
to our
2 degrees.
t-shirts
Yeah.
because Sam's fire was so large.
But
It's actually really high. That
everyone I ask, bring it back to the Addington as soon as I can. I see stuff like that, and I was like, oh, that'd be great to do that, or like with the porch or whatever. And the answer's always, it wouldn't work in the UK because the temperature. But we sat outside all
Very
night,
cold.
like you said. It was only
Yeah.
2 degrees.
The UK
It was
rains, though.
probably colder than it was in the UK.
Yeah.
So I still don't understand why we can't do stuff like that here.
I just think there's a much bigger
Build it and it'll
alfresco
come.
nature out there. Like I think that's more hardwired into.
If you had a fire pit at
culture.
Blackwell overlooking the 18th, you don't think we'd go and sit out there? The
No.
thing they do, though,
No, I don't.
in the UK, and this comes back to the service, in the UK, if you did have it, it would sit there unlit, and because it would take ages for someone to light it, no one would do it. In America,
It's a ceremony.
they've lit it for you,
Yeah.
right? So it's already done.
Idiot proofing it.
So the experience is there to be had. So of course, like moths to a flame, we're drawn to it. Whereas, no doubt, as I said, if you did it in the UK, it would be staff. Well, they wouldn't light it, and then of course you wouldn't be bothered to go and light it. There'd have water in the bottom, all the wood would be
just
wet,
be minging.
and
I'd
it just
take
wouldn't
it-
work.
I'd
So
take it one step further. In the UK, we'd light it once, and then we would never clean out the embers. It would just be like ash pile in the corner.
Wet
That we'd be looking at going, someone should really clean that.
But it's a big thing, isn't it? Fire culture over there.
yeah.
And I started to really get into my stride on that second night at Hoopie with that fire.
I remember I was at another club. I was at Sand Valley. It was a public course, and every lodge has its own fire. And I was like, "What? How do we light the fire?" It sounds like a stupid question, but I don't have matches or anything on me. And they say, "Oh, you just pick up your phone and press, Pro Shop or whatever, and they will send someone." And sure enough, the guy comes out on the quad bike and lights the fire for you. And every lodge has got that, and it's just
It's just a different world, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's an absolute different world.
Final take, just minor side note. Tequila culture in the States, huge.
Yeah, loving
Mm, big
Huge.
tequila guys, weren't they?
Yeah.
Apparently, it's
We
an
were
upper.
drinking tequila espresso martinis, remember?
Yeah, they were good.
Yes, I've forgotten about that. I needed to ask for the recipe.
Soda, tequila,
Yeah,
espresso
and it was
martinis.
amazing.
They
It
were
was really
white,
good.
weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, and they say that tequila as a spirit is like a natural upper,
Yeah.
whereas every other alcohol is a depressant. And
Yeah.
I don't know how much truth there is in that. Seems like somebody said it once and it's now fact. But I'm sure
Pretty much
enough
what we live-
tequila.
Pretty much what we live this pod on. Say it once and hope
Yeah,
it's
but I
fine.
mean, I don't know. I feel like tequila did some
You
bad
sure-
things to
sure
me
it
at
wasn't
university,
the
but
caffeine in the espresso tequila martini.
I don't know. But they were drinking.
anyone
it
knows-
with
Was this
soda
from
and
the guy
lime.
drinking
Then
4
we
shots
had like
of
some
coffee
tequila with
his
soda and lime and grapefruit, and that was a nice drink.
What's
Just a big scene.
let's find out, Ryan. What's the recipe you want? Hopefully someone will send it in.
Oh well, who gave it to us? It was
What-
the
Jim.
What was
he
it called?
He said it
What
was
it
no.
called?
He just said ask for espresso martini with tequila.
No,
No,
it was
it-
risotto or something.
Had
Anyway,
something else.
it-
in it, 'cause
but
it was white. It wasn't.
it was delicious.
Yeah.
But we did ask someone. The first person we asked, he made it wrong, and then it got corrected. So there was some ambiguity
because there were
about
some
exactly
espresso
what it was.
martinis that just were using tequila, and they just looked like an espresso martini. But
It
that
had a
wasn't the ones we
massive
loved.
head on it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take us away from tequila and the Hoopie now, and we're going to drive back
Before
up to
we
Aiken.
before we do, we were supposed to be playing on that final day of a Hoopie, which got cancelled because their
Tornado.
system of their meteorology system is absolutely superb, and they called it like 4 days out. But on the morning of our final day, it absolutely hooned it down.
Yeah.
And just as a sort of nod to the land that a Hoopie's on, we were stood out on the balcony where Sam had nearly set fire to the whole place the evening before, overlooking this sort of, the winds were, I mean, it was wind, 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like serious wind. It was hammering it.
Some guys went out and
hammering it down
played.
with rain. Yeah, someone went out to play.
I think the rain held off until about 11, and actually they were saying if we'd have known, it was kind of great golf weather because it was windy and dry,
Yeah.
and they probably had like 3 hours of
Yeah.
that, so it would have been perfect for golf.
But there was no
driving
puddles on
wouldn't-
that course.
No.
Like it just, and Colin, I was stood out there with Colin, kind of doing this like reflecting on your life thing. You know, you stare into rain and feeling all melancholy. And he said, "There's something like he said it's something like 200 feet of sand. He's like this thing can absorb." He said it was something
Yeah.
like 4 foot of water per hour. It's
Yeah.
just like you can just.
It's like
Yeah.
a colander,
Yeah.
isn't it? Basically,
It was just absorbing all
Yeah.
this water.
But then we sort of just, there was a bit hanging around leaving there. So by the time we left, we were driving into the absolute eye of the storm, weren't we?
Mm.
And people were saying, "Oh, you know, probably get on the road. You don't really want to be driving the freeways and this stuff." I was thinking, I've driven in rain before, mate. So like, we'll be okay. Like,
Easy for us to say. Ryan drove, didn't he, on that
yeah,
stage?
yeah. But you know what I mean. You're thinking,
It was
just
terrifying.
driving in rain.
We were I was driving
scary.
straight at say 60 miles an hour on the motorway. The trees don't even look like they're moving, and all of a sudden it is like someone is trying to yank the wheel and shift me like 20 feet left into the other lane, and it's just the wind on the side of the car just
Yeah.
buffeting. It was like
And what-
I
Crazy.
felt like I was holding on for dear life.
Were you?
And what was strange about it is, like, we'd all kind of shat our pants by this point. It was like, this is fairly terrifying. Our phones had just popped up these tornado warnings that like forced themselves down you. You know, like, it's like tornado warning. Get
Phone
inside.
just went off, didn't
immediately.
Well, they've introduced that. Do you remember in the UK they've done it? And I
Yeah.
don't know if I had it in the
They use
UK
it for, like,
other
terror
than
threats
the
and stuff.
test. Yeah.
and the
Do you remember the
one.
test like a year ago?
Yeah.
And it was
I
like
never got that, actually.
it blares this like siren, and then it says anyway. And in the States, in Canada at least, they use it for like missing persons. It goes off like once a week. But yeah, we had that. It's quite scary.
Yeah.
Well, it said get
Everyone's
inside
phone is going
immediately.
Well, I've got it here.
and then you look, and it's like tornado. Get inside immediately.
Yeah.
And we're on the freeway thinking, well, what the hell do we do?
I can tell you what it said. Public safety alert. Augusta, e.m.a
Augusta.
/ a tornado watch has been issued for Richmond County. Seek shelter indoors in an interior room immediately. Do not go outside. If you are outside, seek indoor shelter immediately. If you're in a vehicle, pull over and seek shelter. Continue to monitor local news and EMA social media.
Right. So at this point, we are in the car. We are in Augusta, and we had set the sat nav to Palmetto because we were hoping, probably optimistically, to play Palmetto. Shout out Brooks
Fairly
for
optimistic.
that afternoon. And we're like, we need to seek shelter. We're in Augusta, and like, what the hell do we do? And I said, well, we could go a bit of a pilgrimage to where John Daly sets up at the Masters every year. We could go and hunker down in We All Needed Lunch, Hooters, Augusta, which we did.
some brilliant chicken
Some of
wings
the
there.
finest.
Chicken
So
wings.
I was a bit.
You thought it was
apprehensive.
a bit stupid. I think you thought we were going to a strip club or something.
Yeah, I was a bit apprehensive about going. I was like, well, I don't understand what the obsession is, boys. You boys have obviously done it before, but
I've never been.
the wings,
Yeah. I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
quite
but
sensational.
the wings are very good. And actually, then I think we found out from everybody else at the bar when we asked them, like, how serious is this tornado warning, that on the don't pay
One
any
of these
attention
every
to it.
couple of weeks, yeah.
It's just
And to be fair, people were still driving. The weather was absolutely biblical. People seem to think, I think over here, maybe with the Hooters stuff, that it's like the first time I'd ever been there. Obviously, it's famous for having scantily clad barmaids, But actually, they're like really family joints as well.
That's-
So you'd see
yeah.
like a retired
one
couple
would
going out
no
for
one
lunch.
would believe you trying to say
No,
that.
you
but
wouldn't, but
the
you'd
thing
see
is,
like a
we were
married
there. There's
60-year-old
people on
couple.
dates. There's older couples with their kids.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of the time it's like the local place to go eat. The one in Augusta is a bit different because it's such like an icon for the Masters Week,
Yeah.
right? But anyway, wings and beer.
And then we tried out the other one. So we got chatting to some locals in there. And they're like, what are you guys doing? You playing Augusta? No. We said we're here to play golf. And they're like, oh, you playing Augusta?
Isn't it
I
funny
actually
how
said to-
non-golfers always assume it's easy to get on Augusta? They're like, it's
It's a-
like all the people that I know that don't play golf that saw I was in Augusta. They go, "Oh, did you play the golf course?" I'm like, "The one on TV," and I'm like, "No." There's
No.
Well, it was
no
50
And it-
mile an hour wind. The rain was, I mean, it was like crazy wind, rain rather. And there was obviously thunder and lightning. So, and there was public safety issues. And I said, if like a tee time came up now and it was your only chance, would you go and play?
to go and play
still?
Augusta.
You'd be like, yeah, I'd still do it.
Of course you would.
So
I'm not sure I would.
So Ryan's there
But you
debating
really
this.
wouldn't.
No, I mean, you're literally taking your own life into your hands.
No,
Are you?
Ryan's certain that Augusta National has got a lightning mitigation
System.
system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
They
nice.
just put up like a bubble and it's just sun
Yeah.
shines in
It's
there.
all these fake trees that are actually metal that are lightning.
It's like Truman
earthing
Show.
points. Yeah,
full-on
it's
Truman
so
Show.
manufactured. It is. Yeah, well, I guarantee there's some sort of lightning mitigation.
But that
system.
was a fairly scary thing. Although seeing all the locals in Hooters just seemingly completely unfazed, and you're like, I think we're the only people panicking. Every time, like, we just keep running to the window and filming it.
Well,
They're
the
all looking
room
at
was
us.
like shaking,
Yeah.
and you couldn't see past like 2 meters outside because the rain was so.
And the
thick.
screens went off.
Yeah.
All the screens in
I
there
think-
were off.
I think though we were thinking it was going to be like Twister.
Yeah, we
You
were
know,
expecting
and the
to
whole-
see the thing coming out of the sky.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
whole building be to be taken up into a vortex.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what they're actually really concerned about is flying objects.
Yeah.
So they're just
Yeah.
saying stay in the middle of a building and you'll be okay.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
why everyone sits in the middle and it's all cool. Because it's not like these things are built out of brick either. Some of them are quite flimsy units.
Yeah.
And then so we kind of got through that and that stopped and we thought, well, tornado seems to have passed now. So should we go play Palmetto?
Yeah. So,
So-
get to Palmetto and it's clearly
Everything's
shut.
closed. I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair,
No
it was a
one's
day
there.
to close the course, wasn't it? Let's be brutally honest.
Yeah.
But we had a nice time. Feel like we should probably do a little nod to the Wilcox in this. Staying at the Wilcox.
Yeah.
When I went to Aiken 5 years ago, it was like, this is a really storied hotel. And we managed to get quite a decent rate there, actually, didn't we? I think
Yeah.
January being a bit off season. It's a legendary hotel.
Yeah.
the
Well,
whole-
it's the local bar restaurant, I guess, for like
Yeah.
the local area. It's like the nice place you would go and have a drink before dinner, or the nice place to go and have dinner.
Mm.
It was too nice for us to have dinner. We always decided wings, but
Yeah.
we could have.
The atmosphere in the lobby, because there's no like desk, is there?
Yeah, and then they had always had a pianist or something like that going. It was very, very civilized.
Well, it's nice because you come back after dinner, and it's all the people, like the town folk from Aiken, that have got dressed up for their nice evening out, and they've gone out to the Wilcox for dinner and drinks. And you're coming back to your room, and that's going on in the lobby, and it's and because the lobby is also the bar. And seating area for people having drinks. It's just, there's a really cool vibe in there. Getting home and you then have a choice. It's like, should we have one more drink or do we go to bed? And it's just a lovely
Whereas
spot.
usually hotel lobbies are just the most sterile, horrible
Yeah.
environments to sit and drink in.
100 yeah.
Whereas there it was like, this is just magic here. So it's such a nice place. And then the next morning it's wheels up and going to Tree Farm.
Tree
Yeah.
Farm.
Now-
So you have been very keen to get us to Tree Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, I'm a member of Tree Farm. I have been since, I guess, it's started getting built.
Okay.
When
When did you join?
Christ, I'm going to say 2021. I can't
Okay.
remember now.
So that would have
COVID
been-
years kind of all go into a blur, but
Yeah.
He'd bought the land then at that point.
he'd bought the land, and I guess Zach texted me, and I think it's 2020. It must have been 2020. He was still in our old flat, and he was like, hypothetically, would you be interested in joining a
How
golf
did
club
you
in
How did
South
you know
Carolina?
that?
We met from. I went to the Ringer events that he used to put
Yeah.
on. I think until COVID, I'd been to every single one.
Didn't you win the first one or
I
something?
did win the first one at Sweetens Cove, yeah.
Wow. Look
Someone
at
said
that.
there was a board up at Sweetens Cove, but I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been back.
So so you said, like, boys, if we're going across there, love to take you guys to Tree Farm. Want to show it off, because as every member wants to do with their golf club,
Yeah.
show off Tree Farm. So we headed across in the morning. What was wild about America, again, probably because of the temperature fluctuations, is you'd had this tornado, which seemed like it was the end of the world.
Yeah.
And the next day was completely calm.
Yeah.
With the
sunny,
amount of
grace.
rain, everywhere in the UK would have been shut for like 2 days, 3 days minimum.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just business as usual.
So when did you last play Tree Farm?
May 2023.
Okay.
So
After our spring meeting last year then?
yeah, so they had an event which was like their first event, I guess, and so I flew over for that.
Did that have all holes in place?
Yes, but
You started on the
we were
5th or something.
teeing off the 10th because the thing about the Tree Farm, like with Barnwell, there's no vertical infrastructure built yet. So they're I think clubhouse and lodging is meant to open in September.
Okay.
So when you went there, the clubhouse site, I guess it's dangerous because it's a building site, right? They're building the building.
Yeah.
So in trying not to, and also so you can't really drive there because it's all construction traffic. So to keep you away from there, they were starting us off the 10th. So this was the first time I would have played it, teeing off the first.
Which is the par 4 up to the bottom
No,
of
the
the
first
hill.
is a par.
Oh,
sorry,
10th.
the 10th.
Yeah.
Is
And then
the
11's the one that hoops round where you thought you were going to run out of fairway and you nearly did.
And you miraculously weren't in it by a yard, considering
called
Caddy
up.
ran
So
ahead.
Caddy says no, you won't run out of fairway. So I
Challenge
I said,
accepted.
Challenge accepted. And I
So
think-
that's
I
where you
think he got it
started.
by
So
about
you
4
hadn't gone
inches.
right up to the top. And okay, cool.
Okay, existentially, is Tree Farm everything you thought you would want out of it when you joined?
Yeah, I think it's. You never know. I mean, it's the only like new golf course I've ever joined, so I don't really know any different. But I would imagine it's pretty much a shot in the dark as to someone says I'm going to build a golf course, and with all the best people involved, that's about as close as you can get to guaranteeing it's going to be good. But you really have no idea until it's actually built, and then you see what you've ended up with. So. You never. I was hoping it would be good, and that all the right people were involved, which was like a big factor for wanting to be a part of it. And it's I think it's sort of surpassed my expectations really. Well, I think it's just I didn't realize how good the piece of land would be, and I think that's also what.
Did you walk it early or anything, or did you just see it all off?
No.
So the first time you actually saw the course in any state was last year in May.
So tell a lie really. I had been. I was at the PGA show last year in 2023, and I flew up with my mother, and we flew up to see it, and I was literally just going to go and see it, and then I think the caddy master, it was the head greenkeeper was just like, just go out. And I thought, are we off mats? And he's like, no, just go. Like all 18 holes are in play now. So they'd cut the holes. So I was actually able to play all 18 holes in January 2023, starting from the first, which was really cool. And again, just kind of blew me away. And that was also one of the earlier experiences I'd had with Bermuda greens. And when I first got there, I looked down and thought they were bent grass, because it was just like there was no grain. They were almost that kind of like darker green that you see from bent grass. And just kind of that's the beginning of a kind of flourishing love story with Bermuda.
So we turn up. It's similar to Old Barnwell in the sense it's got kind of mobile facilities right now for changing your shoes and pro shop. So we go check in, raid. Did you do okay out merch this trip, Ryan?
Jesus. Your merch shopping was absolutely hideous. Like you just did so much in merchandise. I couldn't believe how much stuff you got.
Reconnaissance.
Yeah.
Bring it back to the ad.
An inspo merch tour.
That's ultimately that's what we want to see in the UK, right? You go. My bugbear in the UK is every single pro shop feels like the same.
Yeah.
Every single piece of merch, it's exactly the same, and it can get a little bit like that in the States because they are now all going.
Bedrad,
They generally have the same stuff, whether it's Holderson Bourne or Bedrad. But the difference is that stuff is so much nicer, and there is like a little bit of curation that goes on as well. But those are places you walk in, and you just feel like you go into a lovely clothes shop and you just think, I just know I'm going to buy something.
Even in a mobile trailer, it's merchandised and put together in a very good way, isn't it?
Zach just knows it, doesn't he? He just knows how to sell stuff. He's always been really good at that. The Buck Club stuff he's been brilliant at. And I mean, we have a £300 cardigan on the website that we can't sell, but in America, you don't have any issues.
That sells no issues whatsoever.
No issues selling a £300 cardigan.
It's all very nicely done, though.
You've got tree farm bit on now.
Yeah, no, I really like that. So that logo with the crescent moon, that's basically a South Carolina.
The South Carolina has a palmetto tree with the crescent moon. Yeah, and the tree farm logo is like a stencil of a pine with the. So it's a tip of the hat to the South Carolina state logo.
But you guys have two logos.
More counties need to have their have a logo, right? Like, let's get Surrey getting a logo.
Yeah, we should take it upon ourselves to establish a logo.
Yeah, so they got the tree and the tree monster. So there's two logos, which again just gives you like some variety in the shot to
it's nice.
spread your wings with.
And even so, like when you get there, the handful of tees and stuff, you've got the tees and the ball markers. Yeah. You've got the tree or the tree monster.
Yeah, the tree on the left or the monster on the right in different colours, and then it just cool. Again it gives you
just a little twist on everything, isn't it?
Variety is the spice of life.
I was surprised how classical the golf course was. That'd be my biggest takeaway there.
You've mentioned St George's Hill. I kind of thought, I don't know why it stuck with me but the Berkshire.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
The scale of the site maybe, because the Berkshire's 36 holes, but it's a denser site. Like whereas these American courses seem to be off on much bigger pieces of property.
Maybe a bit of recency as well. It's been a few years since I've been to Berkshire, but the rolling nature of the land for sure. I think just more than anything is I think there's a trend, isn't there, for people are comparing Old Barnwell and Tree Farm, and the two courses could not be further apart really in terms of their general, apart from being new build courses that are both 25 minutes from Aiken, I think that's really where the similarities start and end actually.
Yeah.
There's a big difference in the club ethos, there's a big difference in the golf courses. Everything there feels totally different. So, and variety is a good thing. But there is definitely a trend for, very maximalist green sites and things with huge kickers and things being very provocative. And I suppose knowing that this is a development that Zach's been working on for a long time and it being a first golf course, I'm never going to get the chance to design and develop a golf course myself. But I find it quite hard to imagine I'd leave much behind in the locker when I do it, if I ever did it, And therefore I was really surprised at quite how sort of restrained it was, and actually certainly on that front nine everything feels like it's not muted, not in a derogatory sense again, but it was just a lot more nuanced than I was expecting. I kind of thought there'd be so many crazy punch bowl greens and loads of different things where it's like how many different sort of cool aspects from different courses can I shoehorn into it. And I was really surprised at just quite how restrained it was. Not that many bunkers, yes it was wide, but it was it wasn't crazy width either. The whole thing just felt quite classical, like it was a pretty timeless design. If someone said, if you took away all the paraphernalia around the side of it and you knew you were there, you could believe you were playing a golf course that was built 100 years ago,
Yeah. I think restraint is a word that came to my mind as well, thinking about it, because but I think that goes to I agree with you as well. It's a classical golf course. Reminds me more than anything we played. Reminds me of what we have in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think the land being so interesting is what allows you to do that. I think if you've got a flatter site, or even on a given hole, if the hole's flat, you're probably going to see more bunkers, right? Because you've got to do something to, otherwise it's just
to create visual interest. Yeah.
Yeah, or even to create strategy. Where if you've got for instance, if you have a dog leg, even without undulation, there is inherent strategy in that, like you're going to take the corner on to get closer to the hole, or you're going to be wide and you're going to be further from the hole. So as soon as the whole shape and ground movement starts to get more extreme, I think you have less need for bunkers, and you probably are just kind of predisposed to not having to do more in terms of shaping.
I think what they did really well, if you look at Peachtree, which we talked about the last pod, there's a lot of like you drive to the top of a hill and you go down a hill, or you play up a hill, and the undulations are very much sort of in line with where you're looking. You hardly ever play across them. Tree Farm seems to me that loads of the holes are placed on ridges where there's fall-offs to a side.
Right.
You can think of one, you play over a valley, but it falls off to the left. 2 falls off to the right, down to your right. You play through a valley on 3. You play
4 falls to the
up
right,
through a
5
valley on
falls to the
4.
left.
5, there's a drop off to the left. There's loads of there's that, they're not back-to-back 5s, but there's a 4 and a 5. They play like, par 9. I think it's around the turn.
8 and 9. 8 and 9.
So you're thinking 7 and 8.
7 and 8.
No, 8
one
and
there's a
9.
big
8
drop
and
off
9,
to your
yeah,
right. The other one, so you're always on top of a ridge,
Yeah.
and it's like you can play along that ridge, which lengthens the hole a bit, or you can be in a bit more jeopardy down the side. And I think it's a really unique way to route the land, I thought.
Yeah, and then you don't need the bunkers. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, just because it's
Because it'll fall away.
that ridge is what.
And when you cross the road, I mean, it's cliche already, but when you cross the road from 12 to 13, like the last 6 holes there,
Blockbuster on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that if you are going to compare the two, I think if you're thinking about it like the kind of the whole picture, the album, the music album, the flow, I think there's the crescendo and the kind of finish, and that all feels more like the whole is better at Tree Farm in my mind, but
not biased.
no,
Accepting
it's
Ryan's
Other
no
opinions
bias.
are available.
We need to get Ryan into Blackwell so he can be as biased when he talks about that.
But well, I think I've heard that. I don't think that's a controversial view. That
No, I think the last few are like they're knockout, aren't they? There's last 6 at Tree Farm are knockout.
you get off Tree Farm and you want to go around again.
Yeah.
And I think what will make that place come into its own even more, I think, is 18 and 1 with so 18 is a drivable par 4, and it's like, when we say drivable, it's like 265 yards, and it is the green is set into a hill that is basically like underneath what will be the patio of the clubhouse, which is also where the first tee is, which is a par 3. So sitting on the patio, you're going to be watching people drive into this drivable par 4 and hitting into this par 3 first. And equally, playing down 18, you're going to be playing into a bit of an amphitheatre, drivable par 4, with everyone in the clubhouse overlooking your shot. And I think that drama is going to touch a little bit on what we had at a Hoopie, with that kind of camaraderie with everybody else on site. So I think that's going to be really
And I think
special.
I had heard it said that Zach was quite keen that if there was a playoff, that it's a par 3 playoff and everyone's watching it from the clubhouse, because it's going to be the first. So there's a lot of thought gone into it. A lot of thought.
Yeah. What did you guys think?
I loved it. No, I
biased.
loved it.
I loved all of the courses on our trip. I mean, this goes without saying, but we are immensely thankful and extremely lucky to be able to play these places, because it's not easy to do so. It's not, there is a cost barrier to it as well. So we're extremely lucky that we've managed to do it, and we've just been so, just so blessed with the courses we were able to play. I think they were all.
I'd have loved to have
brilliant.
played Palmetto, because that's not necessarily it's a private club, but it's a lot more. I think it's a little more minimalist in terms of its approach, isn't it? It's much more centered purely around the golf, and it's not a new development. And I thought that would, and I'd have loved to have seen Aiken Golf Club. I'd have loved to have gone there and played. I've only played 12 holes there because I was trying to chase for a flight.
There's loads of courses.
But that's like $30 or $40, and I think that would have been a really neat contrast. I suppose very lucky to have gone and played. 4 absolutely world-class courses.
Yeah, there's loads of places
that
that people were talking about, like Congaree or Savannah came up a lot.
Yeah. The chalk mine, I'd love to have played that. The little par 3.
I've never played Palmetto. I'd love to have gone to it, but I think we need to put to bed a little rumour that I spread with my caddy.
Is it you that spread this, that I'd never shot under par?
Yeah. Well, should we unfold it, how this happened?
Yeah.
So Sam was going really well around Tree
You're
Farm.
having a belter. Like
I was
you were
playing well.
Yeah, really.
Sam
well.
was playing great.
What was he,
To be
2
fair, I
or
putted
3
the
under?
lights out though, didn't I?
2 or 3 under at one point.
I think I was 2 under, maybe 3 under at a point. I was putting really well. Like even when I was in trouble, do you remember I'd like box a 20-footer for par out of nowhere or something?
Yeah, then you
You
got up
guys
and
are
down
double
on
bagging
12.
with your caddy, right?
Yeah.
And so his name was
Ryan was my caddy. He was
Yeah.
an all-world caddy.
Yeah.
By the way, all the caddies we had
You
on
and
this
me
trip
were
were.
double bagging with
Okay.
Grayland.
Yeah. So I think you were telling me and Ryan took us aside on like the 16th hole and go, Sam has never shot under par, and there's a theme in all of his rounds
That's just not
that
true.
he usually is 2 or 3 under par and gets to like the 16th or 17th hole.
This isn't
and
true.
just melts down.
There's a bit.
He said to
yeah.
me,
That's not true.
walking up to the 17th, he goes, I think something bad's about to happen. And
No,
sure
because what
enough,
happened?
Sure as
he
eggs is egg.
cold shanks, like as hard as you can hit a hosel middle, just so far right, like honestly, like 50 feet into the trees.
Nearly took out a gator, didn't it?
Just so far right. It's a par 3, like 140
20 yards,
130 yards,
yeah.
and it was ridiculous. And
No.
then you just give me one look, and it was like, well, yeah, that's it. And I think, what did you come in after that?
1 over or something.
One over,
It
yeah, I
was- and
think.
it-
But that's not what happened. I'm going to have to stand up for myself a little bit.
That's my recollection of events.
So Sam was playing play rounds like 2 under. He got up and down from nowhere on
Yeah.
12.
12th
12
hole.
was like
Ryan
one of the-
lost his shit at that.
Short-
up
my
and down.
Ryan,
short-
my caddy.
Your
right
caddy
there.
lost his apps because he was like,
Yeah.
fuck that.
So this up and down was world class, and so that's for par. And then we crossed the road 13. So you blocked one down 13, and all of a sudden, right? I've played so much golf with you, like an incredible amount of golf with you, and I understand how you behave. And you stopped the little talk. So all the little talk in between holes had gone. It was just very focused, which is fine. No problem with that. But he got mega focused. But then he blocked one down 13 into this sort of the 13. It's down. Is kind of down in a valley, and it's
I
it's not.
misclubbed into that par 5. I had a great lie.
But you blocked one down there. Then you came up into that bunker, and you got a par on that
Splashed
par
out.
5.
Yeah.
Then you
Hit the
parred the
green in
next
2
one.
on 14.
The Redan hole at Free Farm, which I haven't talked about, is a bloody good
Yeah.
hole. I think it's 50.
That thing could have run down
Most
close.
like Redan recreations don't really feed the ball
No.
that well, and that
So
one
then I
just
think you
works
parred that?
so well.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was unlucky that ball didn't quite release down into the.
But it was all
Probably
getting like all
closer.
the conversation had gone. Then we stood over.
Hadn't gone. I think that's a little
Yeah, he was
unfair.
getting very serious.
He was getting very serious. Then
It was
16.
no longer the joy
Don't
left.
stoke these flames.
16. Do you remember the drive on 16? He stood over it for ages, talking about what club he should hit. Do you remember? It was ages.
Really,
And it was
No,
like
you're
rough
about
and-
the second shot when I was trying to cut one
No,
out
well,
over.
the drive first of all,
and the second.
and the
shot,
second you were an eternity.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we were all there, and I was like, "This is
Yeah.
getting very serious. Something's going to happen here." And then I was like, "I know he hasn't shot under par in a competitive round. I don't know if he shot under par in a casual round." And then
you did say it.
yeah, I did say it. I absolutely did say it. Yeah.
You never said
And
it.
then I was like, I know he hasn't done it in a comp. I don't know if he's done it now.
And you also
thing.
said he usually blows up.
And then sometimes he blows up.
Yeah.
And then you parred
Missed a short birdie on 16. Not a
Parred-
short birdie, like a 10-footer.
parred
just
16,
tap in
and
5.
then
So 16 is like an all-worldy part.
Unreal, that
Great,
punch
yeah.
bowl green.
Double dog leg. Tee shot goes kind of left to right. Hole goes. You're hitting kind of uphill on the tee shot. Hole goes way downhill, and then dog legs to the left. The hole is like the green seems to be like tucked left into the tree line, and then the it's like a 2-tier green where like both sections are big punch bowls, and you can basically putt in any direction and get it to the hole if the pace is right.
Nothing like the 16th of the Addington, but in some ways the grandeur of the hole is a bit like the 16th of the Addington.
Yeah, tee to green kind of.
Mm.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. As is the 15th at Barnwell, really like the
Which
12th
turned
at the
out Brian modelled the green side on the main
Apparently.
approach there.
but I should caveat this with, and I feel like I'm defending myself, but I also feel like I've done my friend a disservice, is that we had decided to put cards in. So
Yes.
that was going on your WHS, which I suppose which is where my
Yeah, it's
thing was
like quite
coming in.
motivated.
This
'cause
would
it's
have
a
been
toughish
your first
course.
under par card going on WHS.
Yeah, probably.
So
I think to be fair, like we were trying hard. When we were hitting our own ball, we'd sort of put cards in, which we actually do need to do with the
Well,
sec at
it's just quite a
Blackwell.
difficult task.
And it's like, I don't know. I think sometimes you think of it as a bad thing to want
No, I
to
do
play
not.
better. Like, I feel like if I got a score, it's very rare I've got like a half decent score going. So you're like, yeah, I want to focus, and when I focus, I do invariably play better golf. But then I've been doing stuff with the irons, with all this like trying to, maintain the angle and stuff. I've got this 9-iron in my hand on 17.
You're getting Ryan going. He was like
Ryan was
hammered.
It started with that 3-iron on 6, didn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I played quite nicely around there. I felt like the golf was all right. I just hold a ton of putts really around Tree Farm. Threw a shank in. It's just like, and that 18's an uncomfortable one because really I should have been hitting the 3-wood, but I was still a bit unsettled with the shank on the
17's
last.
gone straight right on this short par 3.
Yeah.
And then 18, 265-yard hole. And you and I
thought
think
I'd
have hit like pretty good shots, Tom. And then you've gone way right.
I tried
into the
to
trees.
chip a driver down there when I could have just bludgeoned a 3-wood.
My Ryan, as he's dressing the ball, my Ryan goes, nope, this isn't going to be good. Because
he said I'd never have given him that club.
He said I would never allowed him to hit that club. Never have allowed him.
Wow.
He said it's too far, and he feels he's got to steer it. He's like, and he's whispering to me, he's like, he needs to smoke a 3-wood. Like he needs to just full swing something here.
Yeah.
And you try to steer that driver.
I was in the buns,
blocked
a couple
it
of
right.
chips, got up and down for 5 or something like
God,
that.
it was painful to watch.
Yeah,
I've got a list of talking points here, and I
Bit
just
late, we're
wasn't
about
taking-
3 hours into this
And,
pod now.
No, I'm just saying that one of them was Tom telling me about Sam's impending meltdowns. I'm
Yeah.
just saying we tick that one off.
Okay. What are you staring at?
I don't know,
The
just the
microphone.
timer just says 16 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Does it loop over after an hour
Yeah,
or
it does.
something?
It loops over after a set amount of time. I can tell you.
Yeah. And actually, the biggest regret of the tour, gents, I don't know what you're going to throw at this. Biggest regret? Don't say the Lincoln Navigator.
Not getting on Palmetto, maybe.
Yeah.
That would have been nice.
Or Aiken.
I've not played Aiken, so I don't know what I'm missing. But it was just
No, mate,
Palmetto's. It's not part of our tour, but Palmetto is like what I think a lot of clubs in the US kind of wish they were. In that, it's not massive service and expense and crazy high fees. It's actually like a seemingly small local membership with a waiting list that they don't really let loads of people in, but they don't charge an arm and a leg. It's just hard to get in, reasonably priced, and a phenomenal golf course, and like no frills even in the clubhouse. Like they don't really do food. They've got the hot dog roller, doing that, and
Beers
they
on
don't have a
porch.
liquor license, which in the States is different to here, where like if you don't have a liquor license, it just means no hard spirits, whereas they serve beers in cans, nothing draft. So everything's very simple, and sitting out on the veranda there, watching people come in on 18, which is like a drivable par 4, is just
magical.
Sensational.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that in the States where most clubs are charging like $20,000 a year as like a standard private members club, like that's like just the antithesis is Palmetto.
It's a very British model, isn't it?
Where I think more clubs in the US
I think
should-
it'd be
should-
staggered
should do
at quite
that.
how good Aiken is as well, because again, it's just, I suppose it's a sensational bit of land before it became really fashionable to go out and find these amazing plots of land and go all out. And there's a great story there, and we just couldn't find a way of squeezing into the trip. Biggest regret?
Just not being better at golf.
Were you disappointed at your golf out there?
Yeah. I didn't play great in a hoopie. I had spells of being okay. I'm going through some swing stuff at the moment, and I'm in a halfway house. Going through some issues right now. Just in a halfway house of things. So we're going through some things right now. So no, my golf in general is fairly consistent in so much as it's consistently shit. So no, I didn't. I don't have any regrets from. I would have liked to have seen Palmetto, but I can't control the weather yet. So no regrets from me. I need to go back. Yourself?
We looked at the fire pit at Tree Farm, and we had about 7 or 8 hours until
that
we
is my
flew.
regret. Yeah,
And I said, Ryan, I think we should probably do this pod here.
we didn't.
And
have
you
time.
were like, we
didn't
don't have time. We've got to get to
But
Atlanta.
I wish we'd have done the pod. Right
And we
before, but
absolutely pissed time away on the way home.
Yeah.
Going to Walmart, buying suitcases. I had about 9 grande iced lattes on the journey. We actually had time for days.
We had another
And-
I don't think we had time because we had a 3-hour drive back to.
We
get
probably
a
wouldn't
flight.
have done 3 hours at it. I'll give you
And
that.
we did have to go to Walmart, because we needed another suitcase
to get
We
your
did-
merchandise home.
The royal we.
But no, lasting memory. What's your one lasting takeaway?
I think
I'll go because you two can think for a bit.
Oh yeah.
I think for me, it was just kind of how different the sports are. Golf in the US and golf in the UK are just completely different beasts. I don't think I was fully prepared for how different they would be. Everything from condition to clubhouse culture to how you arrive to how you leave. Everything was different. And the conditions just sublime. So for me, it was kind of how different it is over there.
Mine would probably be sat on the corner of that bar in Whiskey Alley, not the one we went to night one.
But we had pizza.
Where we had the pizza that was, and they were serving. It was just like exceptional calories there. And I think we did a solid 3.5 hours about the Addington.
We actually cracked the Addington. Although none of us remember what it was.
Yeah, it was a very productive trip in that sense.
It was,
for me.
definitely.
It was my just
I don't think
opportunity
Ryan knows
to
if I'm married or
basically
anything.
like picking your brains at every single thing, bringing it back to whether or not it would work for
Just
us.
bringing it back to the Addington a sec here, guys.
Do you ever get home when your missus goes?
What do you think about rocking chairs at the Addington?
Yeah, I don't. I try not to talk about it anymore.
Does your missus go,
Yeah.
oh, you haven't seen Tom in a while. How is he? Don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You
Yeah.
just spent 4 hours with him. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know.
She
Yeah.
go at one
I know he
point,
missed it
remember
right on 8.
One day she said to me, "Who the fuck is Heather?"
Lingle Bell.
Yeah, exactly. Wild.
Your memory?
I think it was. I mean, I do. Yeah, the moments in the car with you guys. It sounds corny, but yeah,
They were the
that
best.
was that kind of made the trip. The moments in between.
Yeah.
That was, we could, if you'd have just plonked me on the first tee every day and played, it would have been a bit soulless. Like it was.
East down and
What
down
makes
whatever
these trips
quotes.
is just it's travel broadens the mind, right? I mean, you're seeing new things with friends, and I think that's as big a part of it for me as any other aspect.
Yeah, Talladega Nights quotes, eastbound and down
What does your
quotes.
Jesus look like? My Jesus is, I'm front row to Leonard Skinner concert, like hammered drunk.
Was he wearing a tuxedo t-shirt?
He's wearing a tuxedo t-shirt because it's formal, but it says, "I like to party." Because I like to party, so I like my Jesus to party too. Sorry. I'm sure you guys been dying.
There was
for
so
to get
much
that.
of that.
Yeah, the
the
southern accents. I think we were basically speaking in American accents all the time. The southern drawl is like the southern hospitality is spectacular.
It is.
we
Everyone's
had-
walking in slow mo.
We had the same caddy for 2 days, 3 rounds at a Hoopie. And on the third round, it's like we'd spent a lot of time with this dude at this point. And he comes up to us. He's fairly comfortable at this point. We've already asked him to be best man at the next wedding, that sort of thing. And he said, "I got to ask y'all, what does cheers mean?"
says cheers. That means thank you when you say cheers.
And we said, "What? Do we say that a lot?" He says, "Every single time. Like, cheers, 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 cheers." So in the end, it's like every time he gave us one, we just go, "Appreciate it." And he was like, cheers, cheers.
But that's I think that
forget
Talladega
how much
Nights
you use
quote about like the hammered drunk thing. We must have said that 100 times, and then that was when you're 3-iron on the 6th, and Ryan goes, "You hammered that," like in like the exact same voice. That I think Tom and I were just pissing ourselves laughing. I had to explain it to him because otherwise he thought like we were making fun of him or something. But yeah, after that he brought out hammered basically every time you hit a good shot. After that,
Hammered. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed 3 hours roughly of absolute drivel about the 4 world-class golf courses and the bits in between. Any parting gifts, or are we all good to go? I think that's been plenty. Read up about the Addington. Until next time.
Adios.
Watch this. No way.